Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and of course opinions. Today is Thursday, August 25th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, the former White House Director of Digital Engagement for the Biden White House is here. Mimi will do a deep dive into all things surrounding the upcoming midterm election season. Excited to hear more about that. Meanwhile, Maryland is implementing an alert system named after Emmett Till. We're going to tell you exactly how it works and who it reached. Then, Vanessa Bryant's case against those responsible for the leaked photos at the crash site of Kobe Bryant and Gianna's tragic death has come to an end. We're going to give you an update on the outcome.
Plus, Tyler Perry's first ever screenplay finally comes to life, and Nick Cannon is celebrating yet another new addition to his family. We have all that and so much more. This is Our Voice and Our Truth, so let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. We start with news on the midterm election season. A number of African-American candidates have thrown their hats in the ring for the big statewide seats. To discuss some of the big races today is Cameron Trimble. He is the former White House Director of Digital Engagement for the Biden White House. He also ran a record-breaking Black media program that was responsible for the largest investment in reaching Black voters in political history. Cameron is now the Executive Vice President for Precision Strategies. He's also a Howard alumni, and he joins us now. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in. This year, we have a number of African Americans running for U.S. Senate. Do you think Raphael Warnock's Senate win in Georgia last year changed the outlook for Black candidates looking to run for national office?
Yes, I think this is a record-breaking year. You have more than 11 Black candidates, both Democrat and Republicans, running for Senate, with 8 strong Democrats running for Senate across the country. I think Raphael Warnock was kind of a bellwether and really a call to so many candidates that may not have stepped up in other years, but have gone on to win their primaries, and many are poised to take the Senate in some really powerful states.
And speaking of Warnock, how do you see this race shaking out between Warnock and Herschel Walker there in Georgia?
I don't know if anybody's been following social media or the clips, but kind of every day there's a little bit of inadvertent comedy coming from Herschel Walker. So I think Raphael Warnock is really in the pole position, as you can see through polls and some of the record-breaking numbers he has with his fundraising. Mm-hmm. But I think also, in addition to Warnock, you've got people like in Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin, and then Val Demings in the battleground state of Florida, who are also poised to win, whether to come from behind or are already leading in the polls.
You know what? You brought up Val Demings, so let's talk about her. So she's raised a lot of money for her Senate campaign against Marco Rubio, but Florida is a red state. Do you think she'll have a good chance at stealing that seat?
Yes, I think she's an experienced politician. As a former police chief in Orlando, she also was an impeachment manager, so she's had a taste of the national stage. She was a reason why she was considered during Biden's run. She was on the very short list for vice president. Experienced speaker, and really deep ties throughout the state. While some polls do show her slightly behind, as she's been gaining significantly, and as you mentioned, like some of her fundraising and a lot of the energy that is in the state and around the country is kind of really pushing the headwinds her way.
Okay, let's move over to Kentucky now and look at that Senate race. The Democratic nominee, Charles Booker, he is taking on Rand Paul. Rand Paul is like one of the least liked politicians in America, but can a Black man win in a state that's only 7% African American?
I think Kentucky is a unique opportunity, a unique test case in the sense that they already have a Democratic governor. So there is a history within the state of electing Democrats. He has been an elected official twice, and he has strong roots throughout the state. So I think one thing that when you look at Charles Booker and several races where the African American population may not be as high, but we're turning the page in America where you don't just have to have Black people vote for Black candidates. We can connect, and we are as American as anyone else, so we connect to all voters.
I like that, turning the page in America. Let's switch gears just a little bit. President Biden, he finally did what he promised yesterday. He forgave at least $10,000 of student loan debt. How do you think this will impact his standing with young Black voters?
The memes have already started. A lot of the chatter has been there. The Moneyback Joe nickname has come back. But in all seriousness, I think this is kind of life changing. While some may have wanted more, the $10,000 that does come, and especially $20,000 for those who are Pell Grant recipients, really affects women of color. Black women traditionally hold some of the highest student loan debt amongst any group. And this wipes out close to for 90% of people who are making under $75,000 or less. This wipes out all of their college debt. So I think it's a lot to campaign on. It's a promise made, and it was a promise made and a promise delivered on. It could be more. We always want more. I know I got more than $10,000 worth of student debt, but it is a start, and it is something that is unprecedented in American history.
You're right. It is a start and definitely unprecedented. You mentioned bellwether, some of the campaigns earlier, but what races, besides the one in Georgia, do you see for the 24 general election?
Well, I think up and down, there's two things that are really on the docket here. There's kind of control of the Senate, but then also some control of governor's races and other statewide seats in some really major states. You've got Wes Moore, African-American, who just won his primary down for the gubernatorial race in Maryland. As I mentioned earlier, Mandela Barnes going against Senator Ron Johnson up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is, over the last few cycles, has been a key battleground state. So whoever holds that really holds a lot of sway. In addition to that, you also have down in North Carolina, we also have a Black woman running is there. So there's a few different states that we really want to keep our eye on that are going to be important, not just this year, but as we move into 2024 and the next presidential election cycle.
And one thing that I really want to ask you is the party has seen some of its most progressive candidates kind of struggle a little bit to get elected. Do you think that progressive movement in America has hit a wall? I mean, I'm talking Nina Turner in Ohio, Ilhan Omar. She barely eked out a win in Minnesota, Mondaire Jones in New York. What do you think?
No, I think we just have our electorate is becoming more dispersed. A lot of progressive ideals have really infused themselves into kind of the political lexicon and what people want. But after a couple years of being in a pandemic, people are looking kind of for a return to normal. So I think that while some of those progressive ideas and candidates that have really been far left, or some of that have been more extreme on the other side as well, while some of their discourse has made its way into our mainstream kind of politics, I think people really are looking just to kind of get back right. Like, we're really just trying to get back what we've lost over the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Cameron, before I let you go, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about just your passion, merging hip hop and politics, and how that came to be for you.
It came to be over the last couple of years. I'm a child of hip hop. I'm raised in the 80s, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. And all of my years, over the 15 years, kind of working throughout politics, but also working in music and hip hop, I just realized it is probably the last great American group that doesn't have its own political representation. As you can see, some hip hop greats listed right behind me. I think hip hop has something to say. Artists are increasingly becoming more involved politically, been able to bring some from the White House to various campaigns. And I think over now in this election and in future election cycles, you'll only start to see both hip hop artists and people of the hip hop generation really, really make their voices heard.
And how can people follow your Hip Politics brand? Can you give us the Instagram, website, or anything that you have to share with us?
Sure. You can follow anything at HipPolitics, HipPolitics. And you can also follow me at Mr. Cameron Calvin across all socials.
Thank you. Cameron Trimble, thank you so much for being here today. It was very informative. We'll have to have you back soon.
Thank you.
Very insightful, Mimi. Just before President Biden announced his executive order to cancel at least $10,000 of student loan debt for borrowers, the Department of Education said it was canceling more than $10 billion for public service workers. The relief, which covers more than 175,000 people, will be provided through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Last October, the Education Department allowed borrowers to get credit for payments made on loans from different student loan programs. It allowed borrowers who worked in the public service field in 2017 to be eligible to receive benefits.
The Justice Department is launching a civil rights investigation into 3 Arkansas law enforcement officers who beat a suspect. Deputies were seen punching and kicking the suspect while he was on the ground. They initially responded to reports of a man making threats. The Sheriff's Department says they will work with the FBI Civil Rights Division to investigate. 2 of the deputies have already been suspended. A third is on administrative leave pending the investigation.
And Washington, D.C. is working to help more first-time homebuyers get mortgages. Starting in October, first-time homebuyers may qualify for as much as $200,000 in assistance from the city. City officials hope the program will help Black Washingtonians. The district's extremely expensive housing market has made it difficult for people who aren't in upper income bracket to buy a home. Now, the program would allow people making up to $109,000 with a family of 4 to apply for assistance.
Tuesday's congressional primaries were heated affairs for Democrats, while one first-term congressional Black Caucus member failed in his attempt for a second term. A member of the squad moves to the November elections. Representative Jamal Bowman, he won the Democratic nomination in the newly redrawn 16th congressional district. Now, he is expected to win in the overwhelmingly Democratic district against Republican John Campbell, but the night wasn't a good one for Mondaire Jones, the House's first openly gay Black congressional. He lost in New York's 10th district in a crowded field. Jones, who was elected in 2020 to a suburban New York City district, he moved to a district that represents Lower Manhattan as well as Brooklyn after a redistricting of his old district.
A new report by Providence, Rhode Island, a group studying reparations for slavery, suggests not giving out payments, but to establish a home repair fund in African American and Native American residents. The report was issued by the Providence Municipal Reparations Commission. The group is working on a plan that would close the present-day racial wealth gap for groups that had ancestors impacted by racism or slavery. The commission outlined 11 other areas in the city can focus on its reparations to work on as well. They include the criminal justice reform, neighborhood development, and health equity.
A new alert system, similar to how the Amber Alert system works, will be used to highlight hate crimes in Maryland. The Emmett Till alert system will notify African American leaders in the state of credible racist incidents that happen. The system was named after a 14-year-old black boy, of course, Emmett Till, whose lynching in 1955 in Mississippi became one of the most notorious symbols of hate during the Civil Rights era. The alerts will be sent to 167 Black elected officials in Maryland. There will be 3 levels of alerts: low, medium, and high. Now, the top alert means there's a greater likelihood of violence or death, and the system was put together by the Maryland Caucus of African American Leaders.
A federal jury awarded Vanessa Bryant $16 million in her case against Los Angeles County. The money is for emotional distress caused by deputies and firefighters sharing photos of the bodies of Kobe Bryant and his daughter. They were taken at the site of the 2020 helicopter crash that killed them both. The jurors agreed with Vanessa Bryant that her privacy was invaded when officials shared photos of the remains of Kobe Bryant and their 13-year-old daughter, Gianna. Vanessa Bryant tearfully testified during the 11-day trial that news of the photos compounded her grief after losing her husband as well as her daughter. Her co-plaintiff, Chris Chester, who lost his wife and daughter in the crash, was awarded $15 million. And I do like to do a little breakdown of where the money goes to. So the county, they're going to pay her $2.5 million for emotional distress, like I said before, $7.5 million. That's going to cover future suffering. The LA County Fire Department, they're paying $1 million for past suffering, and then $5 million for future suffering. So with this case, it was about 11 days. It was 11 days. And so the deliberations were between 3 and 4 hours each day. And, you know, Vanessa Bryant, she said after this that she lives in fear every single day that these photos are going to make it to the internet, that these photos are going to make it to her daughters. And so there were a lot of people online that were wondering, well, she has money, so why would she want to get money? Awful people online were saying that. And so we were talking about it this morning on our morning show on Power 106, that it doesn't even matter if she has no money, how much money she has. At the end of the day, it's about the grief, the future suffering that you're going to have. Because the other families, we don't know how much money they have. The other family, the Chester family, we don't know how much money they have. No one's asking them why they wanted so much money from this case. At the end of the day, we know this does not bring back the families and the lives that were lost. And so I feel like let her deal with her money and grieve in the way that she wants to grieve.
Yeah. I think every LA County resident should be outraged about what they did with these photos. Because this verdict, if you live in LA County, will eventually be paying this verdict because the residents are going to be responsible. That's how it works. So it's very important when we elect, when we vote, when we elect our sheriff office and those people that we put in office and all of this, because it all ties back together. So it just goes back to voting and all of those things, because it was outrageous what they did. And as to your point, Demi, she deserves every dime for what happened to her in this situation. I think it was more about the principal than it was about anything else in the first place, right?
I agree.
Making them accountable for what they did and saying that you just can't get away with doing something like this. But I think everyone who lives in LA County should be upset, because this is somehow going to come out of everyone's pocket, because this verdict means that the taxpayers have to pay it.
Yeah,
that's
it definitely
really what
does.
it means.
Yeah, and when you think about that, this is a sensitive situation. Imagine, for so much you don't remember, this happened in Calabasas, 50 miles away in Norwalk. It's where the sheriff is showing it to a bartender who showed it to a patron, and thank God one of those patrons felt so offended that she filed a complaint. Otherwise, we don't know if this would have got stopped or how much further this would have gone. So this is what it pretty much kind of led to, a situation like this is how it started. So yes, it should be awarded. And in this country, it is what it is. When someone does something wrong, whether it's a police officer killing a black man or a person of color or something such as this, they cut a check and people have to be held accountable. And usually, like you said, taxpayers have to pay it.
That's how it goes.
All right, well, a Florida deputy is resigning after an aggressive traffic stop he made against a pregnant woman. Last week, Ebony Washington, who was 4 months pregnant, was stopped by Bradford County Deputy Jason DeSue. Washington says when she saw the police cruiser's lights, she did not pull over until she could get to a well-lit area. Washington, who was in the car with her 3 children, said she wanted to make sure she was safe when she stopped the car. DeSue's body cam picks up audio of him threatening to put Washington down if she does not pull over. The video shows the deputy pointing his gun at the woman. Washington says she was in fear for her life, which is an everyday story that a black person, a person of color has to deal with when you feel like a police officer behind you. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. And this is the proper thing. This is what people are taught, especially women. If you're in a car, you want to make sure you pull over in a well-lit area. She wasn't trying to speed away. She was looking for that area. He could have waited, but instead, look, no patience, using that, and thank God he didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah. I watched this interview. I think she did an interview on CNN. And just to hear the fear that was still in her voice, she came out and said that she told the officer, quote, "I am a very educated woman with a master's degree. I was not pulling over because I was in the dark and had 3 children with me. I'm pregnant and I did not want them or myself to feel uncomfortable." We need to remember that people are super afraid. This is a very real and valid fear. The officer then in return told her, "Shut up. I don't care about the why. Shut up." So again, three kids in the car, 4 months pregnant, and he is yelling at her like this. And she said the reason why she told him that she had a master's degree is because she felt like he already felt like, okay, she's black. She must be a criminal. And so therefore I need to let him know who I am, that I'm educated, and that I'm not like the black people that he thinks in his head. And so and I think her whole demeanor and her de-escalation of the situation is what saved her life.
Honestly, too, I love that. Was that a kid in the background recording?
There was her daughter, she said, that was recording.
I love that the kids were like, okay, second instinct, whoever told them I need to be recording this moment because who knows what can come of this. And so again, it's fearful getting pulled over, not pregnant, as a woman, as a black person in Chicago, as a black person in America, but to be pregnant and get pulled over, because the first fear, and then your children, like you said too, the first fear is always that this could be the end. I know for me, like, I'm always nervous that it can just escalate some weird way, and that it could be any of us. And so I'm happy that it, of course, didn't turn out the way like Romeo, like you said, he pulled the trigger. But just to be pulled over pregnant with your kids just alone is just like, is fearful. And then in the dark as well. I'm really happy that it turned out well, but I couldn't even imagine the amount of fear that this woman had when she was getting pulled over.
And you have to think about like how this is going to affect her children moving forward, right? They had to experience this, so how they're going to feel about police officers as they grow up. We always say we want to try and change the narrative, but it's hard to do that when you have young people of color that deal with this and see their parents go through it. So yeah, they're going to have a certain grudge or a certain attitude with police because they've experienced it at a young age.
Yeah, you are so right, Romeo. And this next story, I think, embodies that sentiment right here. A Chicago police sergeant is being charged with official misconduct and aggravated battery for allegedly pinning down a 14-year-old boy he suspected of stealing his son's bike. Michael Valario was off duty during the incident that took place last month in a Chicago suburb. Now, witnesses say the child was moving the bike that was blocking his way when the officer accused him of stealing the bike. The off-duty cop then pins the boy's arms behind him and places his knee on the child's back. Police have relieved him from his duties, and the boy's parents are planning to file a lawsuit. Again, listen. The fact that you would just assume that this child was stealing the bike when he was just moving the bike. It's almost like, what's more traumatizing, the arrest or the fact that he's got to now live with this for the rest of his life, something like this happening to him. He was just literally out with friends. He moved the bike out of the way. This grown man, off duty, so he's in plain clothes, comes up behind you, pins your hand behind your back, and puts his knee in your back. They said once the little boy got free, he started screaming, telling the man to stay away from me, stay away from me. And thank God someone got it on video, because had no one got this on video, where would we be?
And it seems like, too, the children in the area, they were also rallying around as well.
Yes.
And I like that, too. I remember when we first talked about this video, the children, his friends, were also asking, like, begging him, hey, get off of it. It almost seemed like they kind of wanted to jump him a little bit. Like, they were, like, really rallying for this young boy. And I love to see that again. We're happy that this was videotaped so that there is proof of what happened.
Look, in plain clothes, so you're not sure if it's even an officer. Glad that wasn't my son, because they may have been locked up. I'm just going to keep it 100, soulmates. It's all about our voice and our opinion and our truth, and I'm giving you that. After seeing what he did to that 14-year-old knee in the back, have we not learned? Have we not learned from what happened to George Floyd and many others since then? Yet they continue to use this as a pattern? No. I've been locked up. Just telling you right now.
For sure, same. I just, to immediately think that this child was stealing, I mean, I just can't get over that. Like, you can't even move something out of your way. So what does he think about being a police officer? What does he think about black people, that's the first thing that you think within seconds of someone moving something out of their way?
Do we ever find out who was the actual thief?
There was no thief.
There was no thief. He was just moving the bike.
He was just moving the bike.
He was just trying to move it out his way so he can keep about his business, and he had to deal with this. And I'm going to say this real quick. I'm shocked we haven't had more issues, and thank God we haven't had more issues due to the fact when people start wearing masks. Imagine the black men that walk into a store with a hoodie and a mask, because we have to wear a mask because of COVID. I'm glad we didn't have more issues like this. I'm quite surprised, honestly.
Very true.
All right, soulmates, coming up, cash may soon be extinct at cash registers, and men forget one specific special day more than women do. Any guesses what that is? We'll let you know right after the break right here on Fox Soul's Black Report.